Hello everyone, how are you today? In the midst of a drizzling night, the streetlights reflected through the drops of water falling on the roof. That seemingly ordinary scene marked a special milestone. CEO James and Diep officially moved into their new home, after many days of preparation, choosing each piece of furniture, planning every little corner. The moment they stepped through the threshold of their new home finally arrived. But few people know that that rainy night was not only the beginning of a happy journey, but also a night filled with mixed emotions, excitement, emotion, and a bit of mystery. When the sound of rain mixed with laughter, the empty house gradually filled with the warmth of love. However, is everything really as peaceful as it seems? A rainy night, a beginning, and maybe also a fateful night. Are you ready? Let's experience all the emotions in today's video. It was also the time when the rain began to fall. The first raindrops of the season fell on the street, reflecting the yellow light from the unfinished house. The whole area suddenly became silent, only the rustling of the wind and the sound of a moving truck quietly stopping in front of a new house with unfinished walls. James and Diep sat next to each other, their eyes mixed with fatigue and excitement. They had just finished a long journey, not only the journey to find a place to live, but also the journey to find a real home. Can you hear? The sound of the rain sounds like the house's greeting, Diep said softly, her voice trembling slightly. James smiled, holding her hand tightly. Outside, each lightning flashed, clearly illuminating the small sign attached to the door, "Home Sweet Home." No one expected that very night, the fateful rainy night, would become an unforgettable milestone in their lives. Everything seemed like a simple house cleaning, but amidst the rain, the house was still empty, and something began to change. They turned on the lights, looking around the house for the first time in its entirety. Warm light covered the wooden walls. The floor still had the tire marks of the cargo box. Dee placed a small vase on the table. James turned on some soft music. Lover's Rain sounded, gentle and peaceful. Everything seemed perfect, until the sound of wind whistling through the crack in the door made them both startled. A strange sound rang out, creak, as if someone had just opened another door in the house. James walked over, looked around, but besides his reflection in the mirror, there was no one. It must be just the wind, he reassured, then pulled Diep into his arms. But in the girl's eyes, there was a vague trace of worry. It felt like something was watching them through the rain outside. Out on the porch, the rain was still pattering on the corrugated iron roof. The small house was now a whole world, both strange and strangely familiar. Diep ran out onto the porch, reaching out to catch a few drops of rain, her long black hair lightly sticking to her cheek. She smiled, a smile that melted Nam's heart. But as soon as he saw that, he quickly walked over, gently pulling her inside. "Don't get caught in the rain. Be careful not to catch a cold," James said, his voice full of worry. Diep smiled softly. "It's just a little rain. It's okay. The rain in our hometown is very gentle." But he still gently wiped the drops of water on her shoulder with a small towel. In the pale yellow light, James's eyes shone with an indescribable tenderness, a feeling that didn't need words. Just looking at each other was enough to understand. They continued to arrange the furniture. The old wooden table was placed in the middle of the living room. The rattan chairs from the old house were cleaned and neatly arranged. James reassembled the bed, each screw tightened in the sound of the rain falling, as steady as a heartbeat. Diep spread the sheets, folded the blankets. The smell of new fabric mixed with the smell of wood, the smell of rain, the smell of happiness, the scent that only exists when two people truly start a new chapter of their lives. Occasionally they stopped, looked around, then looked at each other. Everything was still empty, but their eyes were full. Perhaps it wasn't the furniture that made the house warm, but the breath, the laughter, and the love that was seeping into every corner. James said softly, his voice choked, "I didn't expect we could really do it." Diep looked at him, her smile as light as the wind. "From now on, this is our home." Both were silent. The sound of rain outside the porch seemed to harmonize with the beat of their hearts. In that moment, James felt his heart sink, not because of worry, but because of emotion. He was afraid Diep would be tired, afraid she would be sick, afraid this house wasn't warm enough, afraid that something small could make her sad. He didn't say anything, just squeezed her hand gently, taking advantage of the time when James went to the market to buy some food for dinner. Diep leisurely strolled around the new house. She touched the newly built walls. Each floor tile still had a bit of cold. The light from the lamp filtered through the window, reflecting on the fields next to the small house. Diep stopped at the porch, listening to the sound of rain falling on the tin roof. The smell of the soil in the backyard mixed with the scent of new wood made her feel strangely warm. Every little corner, every object carried the breath of two people, simple but complete. She smiled slightly, whispering, "My home has finally come true." The rain was still falling steadily, but in the small house, the yellow light from the ceiling light bulbs made the space strangely warm. The sound of dripping water on the porch mixed with the fragrant ginger scent from the pot of chicken broth simmering on the wood stove. A simple evening, but perhaps, for James and Diep, it was the most special meal of their lives. James, a man who used to be busy, who used to live in the middle of a noisy city, was now squatting by the stove, carefully tearing each piece of chicken, his hands, skillful but still clumsy. The firelight shone on his face, clearly illuminating his gentle smile. A bit tired but full of joy, Diep sat next to him, holding a bowl of salt, pepper and lemon juice that had just been mixed, looking at him and smiling, her eyes filled with love. "You're like a real chef now," she teased. "As long as you eat well, I'll be anything," James replied, his voice as light as the wind. They set up a simple meal on the old wooden table: a golden boiled chicken, 2 bowls of beer, a tiny bowl of dipping sauce. The sound of rain falling on the roof was like a gentle background music for that scene. James picked up a piece of chicken, dipped it in salt and pepper, then brought it to Diep's mouth. "Try it, let's see if the chef is good today." Diep smiled, blushing slightly, bowing slightly. "I feed you like a child. You are my baby," he said and laughed, his eyes filled with simple happiness. They ate slowly, while eating, telling each other small stories, like the first time they went to the country market. James awkwardly asked, "What is the name of this vegetable?" which made the whole market laugh out loud. Just like that, amidst the fragrant chicken smell and the sound of falling rain, all the memories seemed to come flooding back, strangely warm and complete. Diep looked around the house, where the lights reflected on the walls like dancing streaks of light. She suddenly said, "You know, I used to think that happiness meant having a lot of money, a big house, a nice car. But now, just having you, having a meal like this, I feel that's enough." James was silent. He put down his chopsticks and held her hand. "Me too. We've gone too far. Now all I need is peace. I want to eat with you like this every day, even if it's just boiled chicken. It's the best thing in my life." Outside, the sound of rain was still drizzling. The sound of crickets began to chirp under the porch. The scent of the fields wafted through the window. The meal gradually cooled, but in their hearts, love and gratitude were burning because they both understood that this small moment would become a memory that would last a lifetime. When the meal was almost over, Diep suddenly leaned her head on his shoulder. Her eyes softened, listening to his breathing mixed with the sound of the rain. "Thank you for bringing me here." James gently squeezed her shoulder, responding with a gentle smile. "No, thank you for believing in me and choosing me as your home." That night, there were no flowers, no loud music, just two people, a country meal, a small roof and a long rain outside, but all together, enough to be called by two words: happiness.